Welcome to this podcast. This is episode 56. My name is Tim Mitra, and I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuline in Mr. Mississauga.
Hello there.
And we also have Jaime Lopez Jr. on the line in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
Home of the Kraken. Alrighty, so let's dig in first of all. We got some fact check. The saying is, hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster by your side, kid. That was the line from at about 55 minutes into the show. Last week we were trying to channel Han Solo and get that right. Oh, by the way, speaking of Han Solo, or Han Solo as it's supposed to be pronounced, the guy from Key and Peele, the guy who's Key, what's his name again?
Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael Key. He was on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend last week.
Oh yeah, the pod, yeah.
Yeah, and he was channeling Billy D. Williams on the Empire Strikes Back, right? And just sort of the way he would say, you know, Han Solo. They would go, hey, the character name is Han Solo. Go, okay, Han Solo. You know, like, no, it's Han Solo. Yeah, Han Solo. And how he was saying Chewbacca and Chewbacca. And like, no, Billy. And he's like, don't worry, I got it. This is how he said it. So it was hilariously funny. I'm doing it no justice, but just if you get a chance, check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes for that one.
Nice.
Coming back to reality, we were talking about the Romulan Bird of Prey, which appeared in the episode last week. And so the Romulan Bird of Prey appeared early in season 1 of the original series, Star Trek. And it starred Mark Leonard. I don't know why I couldn't remember Mark Leonard's name during the podcast last week, but that's the person who eventually went on to play Spock's father, Sarek, right? So the episode was called The Balance of Terror. I don't know if I remember that or not. It was also a quiz question on the Radio Room this week. But yeah, it was the first time they'd ever seen any Romulan as Kirk and Mark Leonard. He chases Mark Leonard back into the Romulan neutral zone and basically ends up taking them out because I think they attack a planet and the Enterprise is sent off to chase them back or chase them down or something, right? So
yep.
A little frontier justice by Captain Kirk and the gang.
Yeah, and we'll get back to the Romulan neutral zone in our recap of this week's episode of Star Trek Picard. There's an interesting little note in that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Anyway, we'll dig in some headlines. Jaime's been happily adding headlines this week, so I'll let him take off with the headlines.
Yeah, so Netflix has dropped a spoilerific teaser for Stranger Things Season 4. It's really hard to have avoided this. If you were anywhere on the internet, you probably have seen this. But the fun thing I'll say about it, without spoiling, in case some people haven't seen Season 3, is that this has caused fans to say, hey, what if this character is crossing over with the Red Guardian in the Black Widow movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And if you don't understand what that means, good, you haven't been spoiled. If you do, then you get the joke. And you can click on the link in the show notes that we'll have for those of you transporting home. And if you don't want to know, and go catch up on Netflix and see Stranger Things Season 3 and then go see this trailer. So
I think we talked about this in past episodes, the sort of the evolution of trailers. Sometimes it's they do 4 or 5 different versions of a trailer. Some of them give away an awful lot of plot. What do you guys think about this? I think it's fair to say that the last season sort of ended on a question mark or a cliffhanger, and this gives you a pretty clear understanding of what had happened from that long before the show was going to make its debut. What do you guys think about the sort of using that? I think the other example, I think when we talked about it was Tim, maybe an episode where Jaime wasn't here. We talked about the death of spoilers, the death of Mystique in the trailer for X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Right, yeah.
Because they put it out and it looks like she dies in the trailer, and then everyone was like, oh, that's probably just, a dream sequence, or that's probably something weird. And then the director came out like that week when the trailer dropped and said, no, that's exactly what you think it is, which was a really strange choice. And this one's sort of the same thing where it kind of just kills the suspense of what ended up the season. What do you guys think?
To be honest with you, I can't remember how the season ended.
Well, then it doesn't matter for you.
Does that mean that you were surprised when you saw the trailer?
No, I didn't get any. So there was no relevance for me whatsoever.
Oh, so you didn't understand the implication because you couldn't remember the.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't know that it works.
This is the one where the kids are all dating and the girls are getting together talking about the boys.
Yeah, and the town has been infiltrated by spies, and they're trying to root out the spies.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember how it ends.
Right. But to Jonathan's point about stuff, I think the Stranger Things one works a little bit different for me than it does with like what ended up happening with the Dark Phoenix one. I think the Dark Phoenix one, the editors on the trailer just got a little too cute. Like if you weren't, intentionally looking to spoil that spoil that moment, for very specific reasons, then I think they just kind of flubbed what they were doing there, right? Because I was like, oh, okay, well, seems like she's probably going to die. Like I'm sure that would be a huge sort of thing people would be talking about. Mm-hmm. Even though some are like, well, no, they couldn't possibly have put that in the trailer, so obviously it's a dream sequence. Like it caused some weirdness there. I think for this one with Stranger Things, it could be more intentional with regard to one, sort of settling folks in of like, look, this character is going to be there, don't worry. And then also it gives you a flavor of dramatic irony, I assume, right? I assume that we, the audience, will know something that the characters will not. Mm-hmm. And in the case we do, right? So you can go into it with a little bit different of a flavor. You do lose the surprise, but then I think you get a different like tension on the dramatic irony part.
Yeah, it does make me wonder, and I think we were noticing that with some of the Game of Thrones trailers too, where they're giving you a taste of something, but what they're giving you is something you see in the first 1.5 minutes of the first episode anyways. So it's not like they're going to make you wait till episode 3 for some grand reveal. It's all there on Front Street, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So maybe this is just their way of saying, like, you're going to find this out the second you turn on the first episode in the first 5 minutes, so we may as well just put that out there so that we can, give you some tantalizing reason to come back if you haven't already fallen into this show, which so many people have. All right. Dig back in.
Next one.
Next one. So Redbox has realized that all the cool kids stopped getting their cheap DVD rentals at very convenient kiosks, and it said, you know what, we're going to launch an ad-supported online video streaming service. So if you're collecting them all, you got one more to do.
Oh, that Redbox. I was kind of wondering what
why it sounded familiar, and granted, this is not a visual medium, but the image that I'm looking at of their interface, if you remove the word Redbox from there, I couldn't tell you what brand that was, because it's from like slightly reddish to, I don't know, violet, I suppose that final color is as a gradient. It's definitely not the very sharp, distinctive red that you would see in the very appropriately named red boxes out in the streets.
That's a strange thing. Have they said, is that American only, or?
I don't know. It says you can check it on your web browser, which I've not done, or in the apps. The apps hadn't launched at the time. Let me check this out. I can go to the link. I don't know if I can. Do I need a... No, wait. On demand. It's unclear to me how I see the service. Like, it looks like they have... Like, it looks like it took me to the normal Redbox site. Like, if I wanted to reserve a copy of something and make sure that it's going to be at the local kiosk. But I'm not sure. Oh, maybe Free Live TV? I could watch the best of America's Funniest Home Videos, or apparently now it's already streaming Tim Allen, Men Are Pigs, that stand-up Unsolved Mysteries, Family Feud.
Hey.
Yeah.
This is a quality product.
It is.
This is the kind of quality we've come to expect from Redbox.
Right.
So no subscription for you immediately there, Jaime, on that one?
No, but I kind of wonder if they'll find some singular property that I'll think, another $5.99 a month I have to start paying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The winning formula is, I guess for these guys, is if they can hook in some really good show, then they have a chance of surviving the world. Otherwise, they're going to just become an also-ran, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had services like that already that have started up and closed down in Canada, like the one from, I think Rogers didn't have one last year, John.
There was a competing one to. It was called Show Me.
Show Me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of died a horrible death.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it makes you realize Canada's a small marketplace too. There's not the dollars to go around like there is in America.
Mm-hmm. So how about that Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, just a quick hit here. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie broke the record for video game movie debut, pulling in $57 million in its opening compared to Detective Pikachu's $54.3 million, which is pretty surprising considering it's a February movie and not a May movie like Detective Pikachu. And
so who's in third place then, I wonder?
I actually don't know. I would guess probably like a Mortal Kombat movie, like the first one maybe.
Or what's it, Warcraft? There was a World of Warcraft movie a few years ago. There's been, there's been a ton of adaptations, not like virtually none of them good.
Yeah, so I guess I don't have as strong of a feeling now to do this, but I was sort of feeling guilty, like, man, I really should go support this movie. You might be wondering, well, why? And it's like, well, because they ended up doing the right thing in the end, right? The fans said, we hate this. This is dumb. Don't do this. And they actually listened and spent millions of dollars and delayed the movie on top of that to, fix it as best they could. And they were rewarded for it. So I hope they take this to heart, in the studios in the future of like, look, just save the time and money and just do it right for the first time, for heaven's sakes. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel less guilty about not going now. And I'm like, oh, it's the best of all time. Okay, good. Good job. I'll catch it on Netflix or Amazon or wherever this ends up.
Yeah, it still doesn't look good. I mean, it's not Cats, but it doesn't look good.
No, it's kind of Smurfish, like.
Yeah. It looks very, slapsticky, kid friendly, which sure. I mean, there's always, again, I had little kids once. It's, there's absolutely a market for, I need to take my kids somewhere. It's February. And if they stay at my house one more minute, I'm going to kill them. Yeah, you're always looking for those things to do. So it makes sense in that way. February can be a little nasty. You're just like, hey, let's go to the movies. Yeah,
well, Sonic the Hedgehog was my gateway drug too, right? I mean, when it came to video games, because that's how I first got into PlayStation and Genesis and stuff like that, right?
Oh, it was Genesis for you guys? I thought the Americas were the only ones that had Mega Drive. That Mega Drive named as Genesis.
No, we had Genesis too. Yeah.
Okay. It was Master System before that. And Jonathan's friend Andrew went to England and brought back a copy of Sonic on Master System, which is still my favorite version of it, by the way. But yeah, still have it in my collection. A nice rare treat, that one, the old Sega Master System Sonic game. I even had the Nomad, Sega Nomad, and I took that to Vancouver with me. So I think I have a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog in one of my DVD cases here, as a matter of fact. Nice. Not that it came out, the cartridge, right? But anyway, I'm looking at Flickster, which lists off the top-selling movies of last week. So top box office was Sonic, followed by Birds of Prey, and the fantabulous unnamed, or incorrectly named movie. Fantasy Island came in third, surprisingly, with 10. Like, the Rotten Tomatoes score is like 10% and 47% from the fans. Yeah. Followed by Photograph, Bad Boys for Life in 1917, and Parasite, right? So, I saw Parasite. I saw Parasite's getting an IMAX re-release. Is it really? Yeah, they're going to do a digital remaster. I just caught that before we came on, and I thought that's a strange choice, but I guess it's so popular now that people want to see it at the widest possible screen. I mean, it's really well done. I mean, like visually well done, as well as being a good movie. I mean, like, it's unique because the plot is not like anything you've seen before, right, Jaime? It's quirky and funny, and it's timely, I'm not giving too much away. I think it's actually in one of the trailers where the two kids in the family, are trying to find a cell signal that they can bum off the neighbors, and they have this raised toilet that it's like it's up on a platform, and they get the best signal sitting beside the toilet in the bathroom kind of thing, and they're walking around their basement apartment, and they're kind of holding their phones up, trying to get a line, trying to get some bars, right? So, and that's, very timely sort of, statement. I mean, like, I was looking at that scene thinking, in 10 or 15 years, it's not going to mean anything to people, right? It's kind of like dialing an old rotary phone. Yeah. But, it's funny in that way, right? So, and just, it's a bit of a movie about class differences too, right? And it's very obviously, like, it's very stark, the difference in class between the two families in the story, right? So anyway, moving on. Let's move on.
Yeah, we got something amazing for you. We got
amazing,
the first trailer for Amazing Stories, the Apple TV Plus show from the production studio for Steven Spielberg. I'm not.
He was on the stage when they rolled out Apple TV, right? Apple TV Plus. Like he was there.
Yeah, I think he was, and I think they had talked about the fact that they were going to do this, and now it's closer to reality since they actually have the trailer for 5 episodes, and this is based on the 1985 series, which I'm not terribly familiar with. I've seen like Tales from the Dark Side and The Outer Limits and a whole bunch of other stuff that had originated in the 80s or had 80s revivals. Do either of you have more context?
Well, I was going to say it sounds familiar. I was going to say, is this the Amazing Stories from before? But was that also Steven Spielberg, Jonathan? Do you remember?
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was an anthology like many of those other shows. And I don't think I can honestly say I watched all of them. Again, I was pretty young at the time. But there was certainly standout episodes. I remember quite vividly it being, like talked about TV even in its era. Because they were bringing big name people like Steven Spielberg to television, which for now, in the era we live in now, that's not an uncommon practice. But, in the 1980s, that was, there was a huge divide between those who worked in the cinema and those who worked on the trash that was TV. Yeah. Nowadays, Meryl Streep was just on a television program on HBO last year, like
what? Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's almost a product of a different era. I do wonder what the appeal is in this circumstance. That was sort of the sales was like, what if you take the smartest, most creative people in Hollywood and let them do a half-hour TV show? That was a huge hook.
It kind of predated X-Files too in that sort of sense, right? Like the campiness sense. And it was sort of a Twilight Zone because we were starved for Twilight Zone for a while there too, right? So they even tried to bring that back. They had a Twilight Zone movie and all that stuff. Yeah, you're looking forward to it.
Did you watch it, Jaime? Did you watch the trailer? What did it say to you?
It said to me something like those anthology shows, like a Black Mirror, like a Tales from the Dark Side. But it's not the best example to use those because those tended to be more sci-fi and horror specifically. This didn't seem like it would be purely that. It seemed like there was other stuff that was a little bit more sort of general family friendly and uplifting sort of stuff. Amazing in some way that doesn't involve, body horror or something. So it seems interesting, and it does seem like a brand that would fit a little bit better with Apple TV Plus than say, Black Mirror, where like the first pig prime minister episode is definitely not a good fit for Apple TV Plus.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. But there was like, again, I remember very vividly some of the episodes being, like really, really impressive at the time. Again, like it wasn't just Spielberg. It was, Martin Scorsese. It was Joe Dante. It was like Irving Kershner, like big name, famous, actors, Hollywood people doing these shows. And yeah, like it was like a thing you had to tune in. Robert Zemeckis, like in the same era where he was making Back to the Future, like, this was a big deal. I don't know if that's the kind of tenor that their talent they've got behind this one. Brad Bird, like before Iron Giant, I don't know what they could do to replicate that kind of, oh my goodness, I can't believe that person's doing that thing kind of impact that it had culturally, though.
Cool. All right. Next.
We are closer to an Iron Man reality, as given by this really cool video of Jetman Dubai, where one of their pilots is the first ever to combine hovering safely at limited altitude and flying acrobatics at high altitude in the same flight. What does that mean? He's wearing like a flying wing with a jetpack. He hovers for a little bit and then starts taking off into the sky and flies around, like Iron Man. If you think of that first Iron Man movie where he's testing out the thrusters, kind of what it's like. And it seems really cool because they say they go upwards of 400 kilometers per hour, which I looked up because I have no idea how fast that is. And it's 248 miles per hour for those of us who use that system. I'm like, wow, that's really impressive.
A lot of tea bags, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I saw the video. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, this is just gonna be another one of those like things, and then he takes off. You're like, whoa, that's different.
Yeah, it almost looked like Photoshop near the end there. Just he gets smaller and smaller and smaller as he disappears into the vista.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I've definitely seen the jetpack stuff where people can just sort of hover, fly in the air, sort of vertically a little bit. But I've never seen it where it converts into winged mode and can fly at that sort of speed and altitude.
But there was that Jetman guy who had this suit that he would wear and fly around and stuff like that. But I think he took off from an airplane. He didn't take off from the ground kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was this video where they were showing the history, but I did see one where they would like drop the dude off of like a helicopter or an airplane. Yeah. And sort of get him in the air already and continue. This one was notable for standing from the ground and then taking off to do that.
I want to know how he lands. That's what I want to know.
Well, you noticed he was doing the whole thing over water.
True. Yeah, but you never. I didn't watch it, and just one I saw was just him disappearing off over the tall buildings and in a single bound. But did they show him landing anywhere?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either because I think Jonathan's right. He probably had to like Captain Sullivan himself into the water, and not be super graceful on the way down.
Right. Well, one would hope that he would survive. I mean, obviously not the first time he's done it, right? I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's survived since they showed us the video, and let it be noted that Sully did survive, as did everybody else on that plane.
Right. All right. I thought you were going to tell me about a new Iron Man movie. I was just watching the Endgame just before we started recording here.
That's wishful thinking. Although, as I said before, these movies are based on comic books. Nobody's really dead in a comic book, so...
Yeah.
And you can have a younger Mantle take over too, right? I think that's going on in the comic books. There's a
young woman who's Tony Stark came back anyway. He gave the mantle to someone else for a while, but then that also happened recently. That there was a bit of a changing of the guard from the Iron Man perspective.
And next we have
the season 3 trailer for Netflix's animated Castlevania. I'm excited about this one. I'm enjoying this series.
I don't know like a sort of vampire-y sort of family thing, like Addams Family kind of monsters thing?
I mean, it certainly involves vampires and monsters, but it's not like comedic in that way. It's based on the video game series from Konami, where you in the games you play as one of the Belmonts, a family of vampire hunters, very similar to like Van Helsing in inspiration.
Oh, that's no idea. Okay.
And they try to, hunt down and kill vampires and Dracula. And this one is based loosely on the early Nintendo series, those games. And it's pretty good. It's got kind of a ragtag team sort of feel to it. And people who are together, fighting evil who don't really necessarily want to be with each other.
Right. Okay.
Animation's good. The series is pretty bingeable because they're like half-hour episodes, I think. So check it out. Catch up on it because the 3rd season is beginning on March 5th.
Nice. So is it anime style like this poster seems to allude?
Yeah, it's hard to describe, especially in a non-visual medium here. It's hard to describe it's anime, but it's Western anime. Like if you've ever seen like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which has an anime-inspired style, but is from an American or at least Western company.
Yeah, it looks great. It's not my cup of tea story-wise, but it's a fantastic-looking cartoon.
Released at a weird time of the year because you would think September, October would be ideal for this, but maybe they're saving that for like Sabrina or something.
So this next story, makes me think in this day and age, why? But go ahead.
Why? Well, let's talk about that. So we were dinging Redbox for its DVD service before, but soon you can buy the original, prequel, and Force Awakens. Is sort of a weird way to put it. In 4K Ultra HD. These Blu-ray sets will be coming out very soon. And a nice big box set.
Which version of Star Wars are we talking about? Like, which version of A New Hope are we watching?
They are the special editions by all accounts.
Certainly the special editions. What's unclear is if they are the McClunky edition or the non-McClunky edition, which sounds like a really dumb distinction, but it is so noticeable now. You see
how McClunky are they?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the McClunky one. Which version is that? That's the latest one, right?
Yeah, that's the newest version of A New Hope on Disney Plus. The only place that they've made that update.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I watched it, but I must have missed McClunky.
Yeah, it's some inexplicable bit of dialogue they added into the Greedo and Han Solo scene.
Did they still have the Han and Jabba the Hutt scene and around the Millennium Falcon?
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
it's so bad when he steps over the guy's tail.
Yeah, baddest gangster in the universe steps on his tail.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I still own the VHS, letterbox first version. I have bootlegs of the Star Wars trilogy on DVD when you could only get them on Chinese bootlegs, and then I have them. I have the Blu-rays, which I bought because they were on sale. And then now that I've got Disney Channel, I was just watching Endgame. Like, why would I pay for something like this again, right?
I guess it's a question of permanence, right? Like if you decided that down the road Disney Plus didn't fit into your budget lifestyle or otherwise, this is something that's physical, and it comes back to the fundamental argument over, do you want to own the physical copy of something?
But do I want to own all 9 of these movies? That's the question.
Well, it does say further down in that article, they've added an addendum saying they're going to put them out individually. So if you chose to have a 4K version of a particular film, there already is a 4K version of Last Jedi.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I've seen that in the store. The other 2 movies in the most recent trilogy, I don't think are available. I don't think the most recent one's available at all, but those aren't available in 4K, and none of the previous ones have been released in 4K. So they're putting out a 9 movie set with all kinds of bonus features and everything else. Plus, you get digital copies of the movies on
and an exclusive letter from Mark Hamill.
Is that right?
Yeah. 27 discs, apparently.
Is that right?
9 movie Star Wars Skywalker collection. Sorry, let's say one complete set for the first time ever.
Well, because they just finished the third part of a third trilogy,
and it comes in a nice, dark Death Star box, and it says the Skywalker Saga on the side of it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a note right at the bottom of the page that says the story's been updated to note that Star Wars: Last Jedi wasn't included in this announcement because it previously included one, but it will be in the box set. And the story also has been updated to note that each of the 8 Star Wars titles will be available to purchase individually. So, should you decide that you really don't need to, have a 4K version of, I don't know, say Attack of the Clones, you could choose not to own that.
Yeah, you can also get digital version as well. Digital and physical versions will have to suffice, it says here. The digital version also includes the Maestro finale. Composer John Williams reflects on his body of work on the Star Wars saga. Mm-hmm. Nice. Navy SEALs.
Ooh, shiny.
Alrighty. Oh, I guess I'm up now. So I said something last week, and I still maintain it's true. So I went and I was looking around today for the difference between Glaswegian and Edinburgh accents, which are the different opposite sides of Scotland, where there's quite a difference in accents. And I've known, my parents or my mother was from Glasgow. She doesn't sound like she sounds English or Scottish, but she doesn't sound like she's from Glasgow, because there's a different sort of accent as well. There's a really thick Glaswegian accent. She went to school in Edinburgh. I don't know if that made a difference. So the Scottish accent is quite different. And it was in reference to my statement that, to me, English accents kind of all blend together. So after I saw that video, I saw another video here that talked about the top 10 hardest UK accents. And it's the watchmodo.com. They have they normally do top 10 lists for different things. So they list off the top 10 accents that are hard to emulate unless you are from that region or whatever, or you have some training on it. But so it covers off Cockney and the Manchester accent, like the brothers from Oasis. Talks about Geordie accent. Talks about the Queen, the type of accent that the Queen has herself. Mm-hmm. And a number of other ones. And to be honest with you, if you play these people speaking this language to me, I probably, other than Cockney, I probably couldn't tell you which one I'm listening to. So for me, they all blend together. So I stand by that. But anyway, I'll link in the show notes here if you want to check out these different accents of the Isles of UK, Ireland and Scotland and various and sundry Great Britain accents, right? Check it out.
We expect the same thing for the different regions of Washington State from you, Jaime, by next week. Mm-hmm. The hardest accents to understand from north to south.
I often have asked people to try to pinpoint where I'm from, and it's a little bit difficult because I have not always lived here in the Pacific Northwest. And when I've done like those New York Times articles of like, choose all these vocabulary terms and we'll tell you what region you're from. It pretty much nails it, being from, about split between Texas and Washington State. But if I were to very quickly answer your question, there isn't much of an accent specific to the Pacific Northwest, with the one variant being from the eastern side of the state, where people say Washington as Washington.
Washington, yeah.
I have no idea why, but they do. It's the
we
only
had a
one
big
that I'm
argument
aware of.
about Worcestershire sauce or Worcestershire sauce on More Than Just Code. Went on for like 3 episodes. But anyway, I was going to say too that it's funny because, Jaime, when I'm editing the podcast, I do hear a particular thing that you say, because they always bug me about my Canadian accent on the other show, and of course, now it's 2 against 1. But the way you pronounce the letter A, sometimes it has a very sort of distinctive lilt to it that's different than say the way Mark says it, for instance, right, or the way I say it, or the way I hear it. But I do. There is an accent in your voice, but it's not like a deep drawl. And you were also, I think you were telling us too that like you're from El Paso, Texas, as opposed to Dallas or Houston, right? And they speak a little differently there too, don't they? Yeah,
they have that southern twang, like Lyndon B. Johnson.
Right.
Yeah. And you're right that it probably is, there to some degrees, but it's not as distinctive as a region as like, Paktika, Smart Pakta from the Super Bowl commercial.
It's wicked smart, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not better than us. Yeah. Yeah, Amy Poehler does a great Boston accent.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, moving on. Let's do some Klingon and some Romulan and
Can you tell your northern Klingon from your northern or your southern Klingon?
Yeah, no, it's a northern Romulan from your southern Romulan. I think it's based on the.
You don't sound like you're from Ratek.
Yeah.
I don't think so, Captain. Perhaps you should try and eat your soup.
Alrighty, well, here we are once again. We're at the spoiler part. Warning, warning, red alert, of the Picard Stardust City episode. This is 5 or 4? 5. Episode 5, season 1. Yeah, so it's my turn to recap the story. And by the way, I was watching the Ready Room, and Will Wheaton at the very beginning has this red alert sign that goes off, and he sort of says, "Hey, this is the spoiler part. If you're haven't watched the episode yet, go away." So, but if you have, continue listening. So we start off in this episode in planet Vergezen in the Delta Quadrant 13 years earlier, and we see I'm going to spoil it for you, but we see Icheb on the table, an operating table, and he's obviously been beaten up and seems to be injured in some way. And the surgeon comes along and starts, removing his eye socket, his Borg eye implant, obviously without anesthetic, because Icheb is not pleased about the operation as it's going. And the doctor says to him, "Where's your cortical node? Where's your cortical node?" And then she's about to drill into his forehead to find it. She hears a noise and she looks up and she says, "Bejazel," which will become important in a few minutes. So that's what the doctor says. And it turns out it isn't Bejazel. It's actually 7 of 9 who comes in, guns blazing, kills the doctor and runs over to rescue Icheb and says, "I'm going to evacuate you from here." And he pleads with her not to evacuate her. He asks her to end his suffering, and she pulls out her phaser pistol, and as she's hugging him, she says, "I'm sorry, my child," and she ends his life. What's interesting is we switch over to the next scene immediately. This is before the credits, of course, and you hear a song that is probably familiar to a lot of people. It's a Scott Joplin rag, or a slow rag, and the title of this one happens to be Solace, which will be important later. And we're in this. The screen tells us we're in Stardust City now on Free Cloud, and it's 2 weeks ago as opposed to 13 years ago. And we see Bruce Maddox comes into it, or it's announced by a large, burly, lizard-looking like dude that to the lady who seems to be in charge of things there, that Bruce Maddox has arrived, and she says, "Kill him." And then she says, "No, wait, new plan," and she has him brought to her. And Bruce Maddox explains, looking a little disheveled, he explains to the proprietor that he's been hiding they, doing air quotes here, have destroyed my lab, and they've used some sort of molecular disruptor kind of chemical or whatever, so there's like nothing left of the lab. And she says, well, here, have some Trainia, and it's this sort of yellowy liquid. And as he's telling the story, and he tells her that the Tal Shiar are after him, and he then realizes that he's been drugged and passes out. And she says, it's too bad because this is Bejazel, it turns out, says it's a pain in the ass having to deal with the Tal Shiar. So obviously she's got some plan afoot. And on the screen we see the credits roll. And of course this one again is directed by Jonathan Frakes. So we're going to the Lysiana ship. They've arrived into Free Cloud space, and Picard is watching a sort of a holographic projection, telling him that, among other things, that Free Cloud will keep all of your secrets. And he's in his holographic study that they've set up for him on the ship. And Seven comes in, and 7 of 9 comes in, and he offers a drink, and tea, coffee, orange juice, chocolate milk, and she says no, bourbon straight up. And she says, in a sort of a matter-of-fact way, she said at the last episode, she first thing she says to Picard is, "You owe me a ship, Picard." This one, she's same sort of attitude. She says, "What the hell are you doing out here? What are you up to? Are you trying to save the galaxy, or are you on some special mission, whatever?" And so she's talking about the Fennis Rangers, which are a character or class of people that they talked about on the last episode, but we didn't really get much into it. Turns out that 7 of 9 is one of the Rangers, and that she's been out there, sort of kicking butt, taking names, protecting the innocent, and that kind of thing. And as Picard tells her, it's like what you're doing is kind of dangerous. You're taking the law into your own hands, and she retorts, "What law?" And he goes, "Yeah, good point. There's really no law out here." So it's kind of, I guess, it's to portray the idea that it's kind of a Wild West in terms of how space runs out here. And she basically says, at the end of the day, I'm helping people who have no one to help them. And so she starts to leave the room, and she's, as he's explaining to her that, he's out here trying to find someone, and it happens to be someone who has no one else to help her. And of course, that, interests 7. She turns around and comes back and sits back on the couch, and they obviously continue their conversation. Meanwhile, we are outside in the con area of the ship. Rios and Raffi are talking about the fact that the two Picard and 7 are in his study talking, and it seems like they know each other, Rios says, and Raffi says, "No, I don't think so," because he didn't know, never mentioned her before, kind of thing. And they think it's cool that she's a ranger and all that kind of stuff, and that she's Borg. And then they make a point that I think I often forget, that they're both of these used to be Borg. Like Picard was a Borg at one point as well, which comes into play later on. And Rios just sort of says, "Strange cargo you brought me, Raffi." Anyway, so we then see in her quarters, Dr. Girardi, Agnes, is looking at a video, and in the video, she's talking to Bruce Maddox, who's baking cookies with raw materials that he's made himself. And he explains to her he doesn't like, replicator cookies, so he prefers to bake them himself because it's kind of an alchemy, and anybody who bakes will tell you the same sort of thing. It's kind of you can follow the recipes, you can follow the sort of easy to follow instructions, but there's a bit of alchemy to it, and it's kind of a skill. And an art, I guess, in a sense. And then the two of them, as they're tasting cookies, they share a kiss. So obviously there's some sort of pre-existing relationship, or something has developed here. The master and the apprentice kind of relationship here, which may have some other tones that come in later on. Maybe not so much in this episode, but we might find out some things later on. Stay tuned until I fill in the rest of the blanks. So each person, when they arrive at Free Cloud, each person is sort of given a projection that is tailored to their particular wants and desires. It's sort of like, in the future, advertising will be tailored to each individual person based on their customs or habits or whatever. So somehow the system seems to know what people want. Everybody gets a custom hologram, except for Elnor, which is sort of a point of, I guess, parody here. Picard gets a gentleman offering fine dining, and Agnes has to punch out a sort of robot thing. What's interesting is that Raffi gets a, "Hey lady, you looking to get snake bit?" She shoos away that one, which kind of plays to the sort of idea that we talked about before, that she seems to have some addiction she's dealing with. Anyway, a little while later, you see that Raffi explains she's looking at a job board for the Facers Guild. So she's sort of trying to build a story to try and get these guys in to meet up with. She finds that Maddox is being held by somebody named Bajazel, and that person is trying to, of course, 7 of 9's ears peak up at that point when she says the name, and that she's sort of got a bounty, or sort of offering him up to, the Tal Shiar for sale. And of course, when 7 kind of, turns her head, does a double take, they kind of go, "Do you know this person?" And she goes, "Yes, she's a butcher who butchers ex-Borg for parts and sells their parts." Anyway, so looking into the research, Raffi figures out that she's got a small army of private contractors around her. One in particular that seems to be annoying is a Beta Anare, which they describe as a sentient lizard. A reptiloid, yeah. Reptiloid, and this turns out to be the big burly guy that we met in the beginning of the story here. And they're like, "Well, it's too bad we can't offer her something." And Seven says, "Well, offer her to trade me for your bounty as an offer." So there's a bit of a flashback. There's flashing between here and the surface as they start to expound on the story. They're in the study, sort of getting their story ready and beaming down. I just noticed that when Rios beams down with a big orange hat and a purple coat, and he's dressed what we would call a pimp, he's all pimped out. But as he beams down, I don't know if you saw one of the signs on the things. One of them said Quark's Bar, which is a sort of shout out. I don't know if this is Quark's Bar they're going to or whatever, but story that Raffi has built up for him. She's made him out to be a famous facer, but not so famous. And Picard, she's got dressed as a sort of a French villain type with an eye patch and very sinister.
I had written that one down in my notes as Captain Frenchie McEyepatch.
Frenchie McEyepatch. Well, and just a comment on, I hadn't put it in my notes here, but a comment on his French acting. I thought he was a little over the top. Not the actor, but I mean the Picard's portrayal of this French person was a little over the top.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he beams down to the bar, and he's sent down to look for Mr. Vup, who turns out to be the Beta Anare, which we talked about. He goes over and orders a drink, and he asks for 2 umbrellas and his drink. And then we flash back to the study here. Previously, Agnes had injected him in the neck with some beta blockers, which will turn out, because they're told that the Beta Anare can smell lies. So this is going to inject him with some pheromones and other things that will sort of mask the fact that he's lying when the Beta Anare gets too close. And they said it'll kick in just about the time you get down to the planet. So as he meets Mr. Vup, he says, your credentials seem to be in order, and drops a name saying Mr. Quark of Ferenginar was pleased with the work you did for him in the past. So I guess Quark has some clout on this planet wherever they are. And he explains to him that he's not here on behalf, Rios explains that he's not here on behalf of the Tal Shiar. He's here on another interested party. And of course, Mr. Vup pulls a disruptor on him and points it right at his face, says, "I'm not a fan of surprises, and I have 12,053 olfactory sensors. I can smell a lie." And of course, at that point in time, the beta blockers kick in, and he reads it as truthful. And the fact that he, you smell truthful, and you must have had some smoked meat for breakfast, which must mean bacon, I would think, right? Anyway, so he shows him a hologram of what he's got to offer, and he shows a projection of a Borg body with a whole bunch of implants, and they're the sort of thing. Those implants, like that many implants in a single person still functioning, it seems to be impossible. This is certainly a great bounty. Meanwhile, you flash back to the ship, and they're talking about preparing the stories, and Elnor finally perks up and says, "Hey, you guys seem to be pretending to be somebody else, and how come I don't have a story?" And he tries to fake a story. They just don't buy it, and he says it's hard not to be not Elnor. And then Picard says, "Well, then be Elnor,
but don't speak."
And then 7 of 9 says, "Don't speak." And Elnor that doesn't speak. Picard, in his over-the-top French, explains as he gets in front of, now he's got his prize. He's obviously the person Rios is representing to Mr. Vup. He explains that she was a jeune fille when she was assimilated, and that's why they were able to get the Borg were able to get implants deep into her, and you'll have to basically chop her apart to get all the parts out of her. But he says before that, I want him to see proof that he's alive. Something like that. I need to see the Muddocks. Meanwhile, we flip over to Raffi, who's off on her own mission, because as you remember, or you may remember, I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but she's here for the ride. She's not here to help Picard. She's here to get him to the planet. So she's off on her own mission. She's looking for this person named Gabriel Huang, which turns out to be located at a medical facility. She beams down to meet him, and it turns out that this is her I guess, estranged son. And he's in the Free Cloud Family Planning Clinic. He wants nothing to do with her, even though now she says she's clean. Everybody seems to hold a grudge in this show. I don't get it. Mm-hmm. He's just not happy to see her at all. And like he says, did you put a tracker in me, or did you hunt me down? And he's talking to her a bit, and he starts to get a little angry about the way she kind of abandoned the family and with her addictions and things like that, and this stupid conspiracy about Mars, and she loses it and sort of says it wasn't a conspiracy, it was real, and obviously they're not going to see eye to eye. And just before the scene ends, she meets her Romulan daughter-in-law, who's clearly pregnant with child. Turns out to be a girl, I believe they said. Mm-hmm. The son's very dismissive and just sort of says, yeah, she was just passing by. So obviously, I don't know, but most women I know would say, oh, I'm too bad you couldn't stick around for a cup of tea or something, but yeah, this seems to be very dismissive. I don't know, maybe that's the Romulan way or something.
And also Pal probably would have gotten a little bit of the data on her mom, on his mom.
Oh, maybe,
right?
Yeah. Well, she didn't seem to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here kind of attitude, but she was very coy and aloof, which again is sort of a Romulan Vulcan kind of trait, right?
A couple little interesting things I caught in that scene. One was we finally got what Raffi is short for, where he says, "This is my mother, Raffaella," which that's kind of neat. And there's he when he's yelling at her about her obsession with the Mars attack, says, tell me about this, tell me about that, and he says, tell me about the Conclave of 8. I wrote that down. I thought that was...
Really? Oh, I missed that, huh?
Yeah, he says, tell me about the this, tell me about that, tell me the conspiracy, and then he drops this line, tell me about the Conclave of 8. So I think that was a nice little seed that they've planted in there in the middle of that scene, where obviously it's a wonderful performance by both of those actors, but they slip you a little kernel of something in there as well. Yeah.
So now we're in front of Bjayzl with Seven as a hostage, and she's got these trick handcuffs that she can undo, and she's also carrying.
She's got the Chewbacca treatment, right? Put on the handcuffs, get the handcuffs off, and start strangling stormtroopers.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, or start throwing them around, but and assembling C-3POs that she finds. But anyway, she different movie. Sorry. So she's Seven and Jay, as Jay calls her, obviously seem to know each other. Da, da, da. There's a surprise, right? So they know each other, and Jay says, I had hoped it was you, and I guess when she saw the scan or whatever, and she refers to her as Annika, which, of course, Picard goes, what? How do you know her real name? Have you seen The Next Generation? What's going on here? Voyager. Was she on Voyager?
Yeah, she was Voyager.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why they kept saying she was from the Delta Quadrant. I don't know why. Like, why did I get I always got the impression they knew each other.
No. There's a very quick. There's a really nice job by the writers of this episode to give you lots of data download without forcing it down your throat. But when the conversation earlier in the episode with Rios, when he's talking and he's talking with Raffi, Seven and Carter in the study, and he says, don't forget that they both used to be Borg, and you're like, okay, got that. And then they also check mark that one. Do they know each other? And like, not as far as I know. Raffi says,
if they
not
were
as far
Borg,
as I know.
they know each other.
Well,
but if they were Borg, they know each other, right?
They never really make that clear. They say that they were both
but they would have been part of the collective, right? So everybody in the collective knows each other.
Yes, I think it's
a collective. It's a hive mind.
Yeah. No, you're right. I was just trying to think of the timing in my head, but I think you're absolutely right.
Because you're right. Because I kind of just naturally thought they knew each other, right? Maybe because you know how Captain Janeway knows Picard too, but that's only because there was like a a second in First Contact or something like that, where she's talking to him on the comm, right?
Yeah.
After she's come back to the Alpha Quadrant, right? Anywho, okay, I kind of missed that. I forgot. So Hugh was he on Next Generation?
Hugh was on TNG. Yeah, Hugh was one of the first humanized Borgs.
Okay, right. Okay, so yeah, and she was obviously Borgified when she was a young child, which we knew because she didn't know her family and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so she was from Voyager. Okay, that explains a lot. All right. Anyway, I'm trying to remember here now when the guns get drawn, because the guns get drawn. I think once the ruse is up, everybody pulls out a gun, pulls out a gun, and the two ladies that are her bodyguards pull out their guns. We flash back to the ship, and Agnes is kind of freaking out because she's on the ship by herself, and she's trying to not panic, and because she hasn't heard anything from these guys for a while, and the emergency medical hologram pops up and says, for the first time in this episode, what is the nature of your psychotic emergency? And, she babbles on and on with him, and she eventually just says, sort of says, deactivate EMH, and he disappears. And then Rios calls her and says, we might have to abort, things aren't going too well down here, just, I'll ping you when I get a chance to turn on. Oh, I forgot to mention that Seven is carrying a pattern enhancer, right, for the transporter, so that they can basically create a VPN tunnel through the force fields or whatever, and beam these guys out. Anyway, in the conversation with Jay or BJ, Annika sort of says, she actually says later on that he was like a son to me, but she kind of says to Annika that he was very important to him, and she was not very pleased with what happened, how that went down. And she sort of teases her, saying, no one has ever been worth more to you than me, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So this sort of implied some sort of a relationship. I don't know if it was good or bad or whatever, but she explains at some point in this takedown here that they kind of met each other, and Bijay was pretending to be a Borg to try and get closer to the Borg. And,
I think they say that she's part of the Rangers. I think they say Seven explains that when the rescues of the Romulans ended and
the Federation left,
left, and this is where it ties into what we talked about at the beginning of our pod tonight, was she says the neutral zone fell. There is no more neutral zone, right? And
okay.
She says all of that has basically come crumbling down. She said a bunch of us basically took it upon ourselves to try and keep order.
Yeah.
And then she explains sort of what happened with Icheb and the relationship, right?
Yeah. So as the guns are getting drawn, or just around the time the guns are getting drawn, Seven grabs Jay around the neck with her left hand, which has a whole bunch of Borg implants. So I'm assuming that that's a very dangerous hand to be grabbed with, because all of a sudden she says, drop your weapons, and Jay says to the people who have the weapons, drop your weapons. And I think at that point, doesn't Elnor grab the guns and away from everybody?
Oh, first he says the great line. He says, "Are we done pretending?" Which is great.
Yeah.
Great, very deadpan.
Yeah.
Because the guy who comes from a society that doesn't lie, and just tells everything straight up, it's like, I'm not comfortable with this situation.
Yeah, and then Picard basically says, everybody stop pretending. You're right. It's right at that point too, right?
Yeah.
And then she basically says to Picard and Clan, take Maddox and go. And she throws the pattern enhancer behind her.
Well, she lays out the story first. She basically gives you the backstory on Icheb, right? She says he was one of the Rangers working with us. He was on this ship. He was on leave. They kidnapped him, and basically spells out the story we saw to open the episode.
Oh, he was working as a science officer on the ship. I missed who she was talking about.
Yeah, she was talking about Icheb and says they took him and they just wanted him for parts, and it turns out that Jazel learned about Icheb being a former Borg from Seven while she was infiltrating the Rangers. So that's how Seven feels responsible, because she shared that information with Jazel, not knowing that she was just there for the data.
Bounty hunter,
yeah.
So it's interesting too. Now you say that because as in the beginning of the story, when Seven pulls out her disruptor and holds it to his chest, you see that he's wearing a comm badge, right? Mm-hmm. And he's in a Starfleet uniform as well. Mm-hmm. And she's not at that point, by the way. No. So take Maddox and go. And then Picard sort of says to her, this whole revenge thing isn't going to work out for you. You're not really here to help us. You just wanted to come and settle a score. trying to pull a fast one over on us. Yeah, this is should have said some of us just tried to maintain order in this thing, and
in there's where Mr. Vup is sort of slowly trying to turn the tables on them, right? And he pulls a little something out of his sleeve, and across the room, Rios in his pimp uniform fires a shot and kills Vup, and then he's the one that sort of talks Seven out of getting them all
a very
involved.
Important line he says to her. He says, like he talks about how you're going to put a bounty on all of us, and you and I can probably survive this, but the old man and the kid wouldn't be able to handle this. But he says there's no solace in revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, for those who were paying attention earlier in my description, you'll get the reference. But so basically somebody says 5 to beam up, Doctor. I think Rios, I guess, right? And she pulls the phaser thing. Seven at some point agrees to come with them. So the 5 of them beam up, and then Rios puts down the pattern enhancer, and Seven comes over to the transporter station and very secretly puts it in her pocket. Then she tells Picard that the Rangers have sent a ship to come pick her up, which maybe we knew or we think might be a ruse, whatever. She says, I'll borrow a couple of your phasers, and she goes and grabs a couple of phasers, and he beams her to somewhere, right?
And she gives him a little something too, like a comm badge or something that's supposed to be, if you need help in the future, you can get in touch.
Yeah,
right,
it's a little RFID chip or something like that. Yeah. Or a little signal thing to page me. So I guess we're meant to think that the actress is leaving the show for a bit, and she'll maybe come back later on when we need Han Solo to sweep in and save the day, kind of thing.
Yeah, blow this thing, let's go home.
Yeah. But she secretly beams back down to the bar. Immediately, as she's being beamed down, she activates the phasers, so that when she lands, she just takes out the two henchwomen. And the rest of the posse in the room all run away and beam out and all that kind of stuff, and she's left there with Jay, and and she sort of said, "I thought you were planning on shooting your way out." She was, "I may still." And then she said that this is for you, Jeb, and she basically blasts Vijay
with a killer line, a really nice delivery of he was a son to me.
He was like a son to me. Yeah,
I
had that earlier in my notes. I didn't want to drop that one too. I should have said it here, but that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, great line, right?
Yeah. So now we get to the because I think she takes the 3 young Borgs under her wing when she's on Voyager, right? Mm-hmm. Picard then is talking to Maddox, and Maddox is obviously struggling to obviously typical storyline where he tries to get up but he can't get up and he falls back down again. But he asks, I guess because Picard is there, he says, I guess Daj is dead, isn't she? And he confirms he is, and he sort of said, what happened? He goes, well, the Tal Shiar came for me, and he drops another line too, which is interesting. He says the mom AI must have activated her. Mm-hmm. So we've seen the mom AI. We've seen this mom that they've talked to, both Soji and Daj a couple of times, but obviously it looked to us a little computerish, but it turns out it actually is a computer. Mm-hmm. It's an AI. It's not really the mother. I guess the girls think it's their mother they're talking to, but it's actually an AI. Yeah. And he says, does she have a sister? Yes, she's on the artifact, and then Picard says, well, why is she there? And he says, to find the truth. So obviously, Picard says, because the Romulans are, lies upon lies, and the Romulans are in on this. And he says, well, no, the Federation's also in on it. And so he leaves. He leaves him to rest and that kind of stuff. And Agnes is there with him.
Well, first we get the little data bit there where he cuts back to Rios, right?
Yes, I suspected there.
Yeah, and then says, what are we going to do about our stowaway?
Well, before that, he says, Romulan space, that doubles my fee. Yeah. That seems to be his line. Anytime something gets more complicated, doubles his fee. Yeah. To which Picard kind of shrugs and goes, yeah, whatever. Yeah. I've got lots of gold plus latinum, somewhere. I don't know where he's keeping the gold.
Can I trade you in wine?
Yeah, exactly. Agnes is now talking to Maddox, and he says, I thought I was dreaming. I didn't think you were here. And she says, I never thought I'd see you again. And Maddox says to her on his what turns out to be deathbed, did you see her? Did you ever get a chance to meet Daj? And the two girls are imperfectly perfect. Like they're just exactly what we wanted them to be. And he says to her something to the effect of, your contribution was essential. And, and she says, great, that's one more thing I have to atone for. And then the EMH pops in again and he goes, what's the nature of your psychotic emergency to her? And then as he realizes that she's punching the buttons to turn off life support or whatever it is that she's doing to Maddox, and she says to him, she dismisses the EMH, and she says, I wish you knew what I know, and I wish you didn't know. I wish I didn't know what I know, and I wish they hadn't shown me. And at which point Maddox dies, and the episode ends. So we're going to have to find out, why would Agnes come all this way to kill him? What is it that what kind of hold did he have on her? Is this another Me Too kind of thing, or what's going on,
Well, it was the line for me I thought was interesting. The way he phrased it was, it was you, it was Sung and I and you.
Yeah.
And then he says, your contribution was essential. And my first thought went to biological donation of some kind, like with
maybe
eggs.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. Yeah, they kind of look like her.
Yeah, like was they like tissue samples or ovum or
or is she?
I wonder,
a replicant.
I wonder. Yeah. Yeah.
This could go a lot of different ways. Jaime's sitting there in the quiet, lurking again.
I'm trying to not be spoilery because for those of you who don't follow the show too closely, I live in the United States, which means I absolutely watched the Super Bowl. That would be the championship game for the National Football League in America.
Yes.
And there was some trailer stuff that came out. I don't actually remember if it was during the game or in like the lead up to the game or the, after the game stuff.
That goes beyond these episodes?
Well, they showed like a 30-second trailer for Star Trek Picard, go join CBS All Access and watch it.
Yeah.
And they showed a very brief clip. I mean, it's like half a second, if that, that you see something that we haven't seen yet in the show.
I think I saw that trailer, but go on.
So I can't speak to the contribution, but I can speak to the guilt part that she's feeling about, I really wish they hadn't shown me, and I wish I didn't know what I know.
Well, I really wish they hadn't shown you, because you're not telling us.
I mean, do you guys want me to? I can tell. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw. I think I might have seen the commercial because I kind of like whenever I see another trailer thing, sometimes I don't want to spoil it myself, so I don't actually look at it. But now I'm curious. Now you got me curious, because you're right. There are some scenes that we haven't seen yet, right? Like I think everything that was in the original trailer so far we've seen. Like the scene with Seven walking down and firing two phasers in both hands. That was in tonight's episode, So I don't think there's anything we haven't seen in the original trailer. But yeah, so go ahead, tell us what you saw.
So this is the one that I saw and where I was pretty suspicious of Dr. Girardi for since the Super Bowl, and certainly in this episode before bad things happened. Because they show us a little bit more of what happened between Dr. Girardi and Commodore
really?
O.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Commodore O, okay.
Back on Okinawa at the Daystrom Institute, or I guess the park or something that she was at nearby.
Yeah.
That it appears from, again, the very half second we saw that maybe there was like a mind meld that happened to show like, hey, here's what we know. Check out this cool thing that we know.
Really?
This dark secret. And that's why Girardi's like completely messed up. And she says,
right,
this is something I have to atone for, right? Like I have to atone for killing you right now. And I also have to atone for my contribution to the creation of these terrible creatures. And we don't know why they're terrible. I mean, we've seen hints from like the Ramda parts and everything, but there's still more secret to be unraveled here.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the whole Bourne aspect to these guys, right?
Yeah, that they have this
and the Manchurian Candidate kind of thingy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, I'll let you guys talk about this now that I've done all the talking.
Well, I think the one that had me just busting out laughing, and it was so appropriate, was my future costume for someday in the future when I visit Paris and go around France and starts saying that this is a war crime. Because I have a freaking beret.
Why did he say that?
He didn't say that line, but
Captain Frenchy McEye Patch.
Yeah. Jean-Luc Picard with the very strong British accent, but speaks French and it has a chateau in France. Leaned really heavily into the absurd.
Every stereotype.
Yeah. That was a very enjoyable, lighthearted part for what's a pretty dark episode.
And all things being equal, like he took a real backseat in this episode, right? Patrick Stewart. Yeah. I mean,
do you know there was no scene on the artifact this time?
No, there wasn't. You're right. It was. Yeah. I mean, it's good. I don't think it would have done any service to this episode if they'd taken it away.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There was lots of little Easter eggs through this one too. Did you guys catch all the fun stuff? I mean, you mentioned the quark. They mentioned at one point. When they sit down at the beginning of the episode when Maddox is meeting with Bjayzl and she says, help yourself to some Tronya, right? Tronya is, of course, from the 10th episode of Star Trek was do you remember the one with little what's his name? Ron Howard's little brother.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Did you remember?
Clint Howard?
Clint Howard. He says, we must drink. This is Tronya. I hope you relish it as much as I.
Ah.
That's a neat callback.
That was a neat
Quark
callback.
A couple times. Yeah. Quark a couple times.
Quark a couple times. Yeah, and the Free Cloud stuff was kind of interesting too. I have my notes in here. So they say at one point, Free Cloud, maximum security, financial and information services, minimal restrictions on personal liberty. I thought that was an interesting way of phrasing that. So it's basically Vegas.
Yeah.
And then later on, they say, I have written down, they forgot to install their pop-up blocker when they arrive, right? The pop-ups.
Yeah.
There was a nice little moment. So when early in the episode, when Raffi arrives, as you mentioned, she had a different mission, right? So she's looking at this transparent screen where you see that she's looking for somebody, and if you pause the screen, you can see it says Gabriel Wong.
Right. Yeah.
But there's actually other details you can pick up on that screen if you happen to be, I don't know, say like an obsessive compulsive, and you notice that it says that he was born on Mars.
Oh, really?
So I have a feeling we might get the data download in there somewhere down the line that one of the reasons why Gabriel might be mad is that maybe his dad was from Mars and may have been there during that attack.
Yeah, maybe he was one of the school kids with the two girls, right?
Yeah, or something like that. Now, again, he doesn't make it clear the timeline of what happens with his father. He mentions his dad. You should have been there for me and dad. So I don't know how that relates, but it sounds like at some point, like if he was born on Mars, obviously there's a connection there, and I think that's gonna come back around on why she was so obsessed with this, and like maybe these people that we saw in that episode get killed by the synth were friends or something. Like it to me, it just seems like a nice little taste of something that might come back and pay off in the end.
Well, he's a survivor, so obviously that's going to be an issue, because I think that people who were on Mars and survived, because don't you remember, like in that sort of short track, the two girls all of a sudden become fast friends because of what happens, which again surprising.
Yeah, but I could definitely see where so folks do end up like with like survivor's guilt, but they can also have other kinds of guilt that they feel and anger. And I could see where in the future here we might learn that Raffi maybe gave up being on Mars, to be with her son and her and his father, specifically to go, with Picard to do this grand save the Romulans thing, and he might feel very angry about that. Right? Like I could see that coming up in the future, and that's not unreasonable, right? Like that's a very emotional thing that if you could perceive that, like, your protective parent figure wasn't there for you in the time of agony for you.
The question though, why would the son go to Free Cloud?
I don't think they really make it clear. He doesn't look like, obviously he's Starfleet. And
Free Cloud seems to like sort of like you said, like it's full of hucksters and
the sign on the building when she said at first, she says he's in a medical facility, right? She says, I've tracked him down. He's in a medical facility in the medical district. But then when he gets there, when she gets there to meet him, he's inside the Free Cloud Family Planning Center, which maybe it's because that's the nearest doctor they could get to from wherever it is they are, right? Like,
right, yeah.
And again, we mentioned that the little very tantalizing little detail that he throws about the conspiracy that she harbors, and he accuses her of being obsessed and, tell me about this, Mom, tell me about this, and then throws out that line about the Conclave of 8. Obviously, we know from her backstory that we've gotten so far for the first few episodes that she was obsessed with all this stuff and continues to be obsessed with all this stuff. She does say in a previous episode that she is absolutely convinced that there was a conspiracy, and there's absolutely convinced that the Federation was involved in the conspiracy.
Right, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what this new sort of mysterious conclave may have to do with all this. But yeah, it's too on the nose and too clearly convoluted of a term to be a throwaway, right?
Right, yeah.
The way that 7 of 9 dispatches Bechazel was particularly graphic too. I don't recall phasers working like that. It looked very disruptory.
Yeah, disruptory, yeah.
Like she turns into a mist, like it wasn't like, oh, I fall down and like she was vaporized. That was pretty graphic for Star Trek standards, I think.
Yeah, it's sort of the modern equivalent of what come to mind are I think Wrath of Khan and Star Trek 6. A couple people get vaporized, and then also from TNG when those aliens had infiltrated the little bug parasite aliens that invaded the Federation, and Picard and Riker not vaporized but like kablooey a dude, a Commodore or Admiral or something.
Yeah. We seek peaceful coexistence.
But in the original series, didn't people disappear when they got phasered, right?
They did.
But I think that was a way of like not showing blood and guts on the show, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, and even by the time they got to this sort of TNG era, a lot of it was like, if you're hit with a stun setting, you just sort of slumped. If you're hitting with a not in stun setting, then you tended to sort of slump in a different way. But like the Federation weapons weren't disintegrators, right? They were it's basically like neurological damage that kills you, not necessarily death by fire. The other one that sort of popped into my mind during that particular death, because she seemed like she died screaming, was the episode where the Collector steals Data, right? And he has the rare disruptor that is supposed to be the most excruciating death of all types of disintegrator weapons, and they banned it because when in that episode the guy kills his, I think, wife or partner, and she dies screaming. And this one, when 7 sort of says, that's it for you, and vaporizes, it just, she sort of goes up in a puff of smoke, and it looked like a lot of fun.
Then did she look like if they recast TNG, she would clearly play Counselor Troy?
Yeah.
I had in my notes, I wonder if she was supposed to be a Betazoid.
So I come back to a couple questions. Like, so did you notice Icheb's nose, like bridge of his nose, like when they showed the profile of him on the table? Did you realize did you think it was Icheb at the time, or the same race?
No, it wasn't immediately, like within 20 seconds into the scene, I think it was a little closer. I took a look to try and confirm it, and I was sort of right in my suspicion, because at the time I thought, that doesn't really look like Icheb. Now, again, it's been 20 years, so fair enough. But turns out it was not the original actor. So that is obviously, you can put a person in makeup, but then, obviously they're ripping his eyeball out. He's supposed to be covered in blood and everything else. But the original actor's name was Manu Intiraymi. And this part was played by an actor named Casey King. So that, I think, was a bit of obviously it would kind of suck for the original actor to be like, hey, come on back, we're going to kill you in a scene that takes, 30 seconds.
Well, I was going to say, so the next question is, what about the guy who played Maddox? Is that the same person?
No, I looked up on IMDb to see if it was the same guy, and it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because he doesn't seem to last throughout the whole episode either.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
Which is kind of weird, don't you think?
That's not the same actor?
I mean, like, it's funny, 3 weeks ago, I was thinking as we were recording, I didn't say it at the time, but like, the second season of or was it the second season of Discovery, or the one we just finished watching was Search for Spock, right? This is like Search for Spock again, but now we're searching for Maddox, or I guess we're searching for Soji, but it seems kind of anticlimactic that they find this guy, they have like a couple of words with him, and then he's basically written off the show, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think he was almost the red herring or the MacGuffin of it too, right? I think it was supposed to be like, I thought it was particularly telling, and I actually did sort of tweak. I know you guys are gonna bust me about it, but I did kind of tweak that Agnes was acting weird throughout the whole thing, and I thought, well, maybe she is going to do
this
something.
Whole episode or the whole show?
No, just this episode. I thought when she had that first panic attack, I was like,
yeah, the psychotic episode. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought like maybe there's more here than meets the eye, and then as they built that tension towards that, and like even from the first time they showed that hollow, I was like, that is interesting. I wonder how this is going to pay off, and sort of have my ears up about that. But I got particularly suspicious in the scene where Picard is talking to Maddox towards the end, and Maddox is in bad shape. They say he's got massive abdominal hemorrhaging, and he's in bad shape from being tortured by the mobsters. And in one sentence, he confirms both that Soji exists and where she is. I was like, well, you're done. You're done.
Hey, put a red shirt on him.
Like, the second that you give them everything they need in one sentence, you are not making it out of this episode. There was no way he was going to live past that moment. I'm like, dude, that is too much plot exposition in one spot. You are done. So as soon as he was like, Picard this, and then as soon as Agnes says to him, you should go and leave him alone, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's getting a pillow over the face. There's just no way this is gonna, say goodnight, Gracie. Pillow. This one's over. Holographic pillow over the face. Yeah, and then speaking of unpleasant deaths, it did not look like Mr. Maddox or Dr. Maddox particularly enjoyed his demise either.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a really interesting episode. As you say, it really focused on this mission. Again, I've liked this. What
about the Hippocratic Oath? That's what I want to know.
She's not a medical doctor.
Oh, so she's okay. It's okay for her to kill people?
Well, it's not okay for her to kill people, but she doesn't have the do no harm, right?
Right.
Yeah, I did think. I really
remember that about Mark, eh? I mean,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, oh man, we're gonna dig so hard at Mark. It's like, so Mark, you don't have a specific ethical oath not to hurt people, huh?
I did think it was a good storytelling method, and they did this in the last episode. I think we made a note of it last week. Where they did that sort of unveil of two pieces of things happening over time. So last episode, it was the one where we were getting the information about Soji being the destroyer as it was playing out on the opposite side of the galaxy with Picard, and that. This one where they were going back and forth between outlining the mission and the mission taking place. Again, give credit where credit's due. Frakes is a good director. Like it's a really well made episode. Like it really has some pace, and the story flowed really well. Like it was good television.
Yeah. I mean, I like that too, because they do that sort of Ocean's 11 thing where they're explaining what they're going to do and they're doing it, and then they're going to explain some more what they're going to do and they're doing it. Whereas, I can't remember if they did that in Ocean's 11 or if that's a sort of vehicle, but same sort of storytelling. Where
it's the heist movie, right? It's the no, you're right. But done well. Like that can be very hackneyed. It can be very very poorly executed, and this wasn't. It was it made for a very entertaining episode, and it did have some peaks and valleys. Again, the scene between Raffi and her son, the scene between Maddox and Girardi. There's some depth to this episode too, but then to sort of balance that out against Elnor and his complete lack of understanding, and Picard's over the top accent, and the Rios is again he's starting to become a very endearing and charming character. The little lines that come out of him too. Again, I think this is one of the episodes that stands out to me by far for now.
All right.
I enjoy where Seven's character has gone, because to me it makes a lot of sense given her sort of character growth and arc in Voyager. And when you think back to all of those episodes where she was butting heads with like B'Elanna or Captain Janeway. This is pretty much in line with her character of like being very pragmatic, saying it makes sense to kill this person. We should just kill this person.
Yep.
Sort of stuff.
Yep.
And yet also having that sort of mothering aspect, like she had with Naomi Wildman and Icheb, and pour one out for the Borg baby that they put into a desk drawer and never talked about again. And the sense of justice
Borg baby?
The Borg baby when they got all the Borg children, like I think a couple of the younger ones, girls, I think, or a girl and a boy, very quickly they reunite them with their parents, and Icheb sort of stays along longer. But there was a little Borg baby that they never, like, they just forgot about. Like, this is a sitcom. This is Family Matters. He would have like been taken up the upstairs and then never come back downstairs.
That's right.
So for her being part of the Fenris Rangers made a lot of sense to me. They're like, I don't think she could live normal sort of Federation life. I think she would see what's happening.
Sort of like Strider in the Lord of the Rings.
Seen too many hard times. I do wonder though. So, Jaime, I know you were more invested, I think, in Voyager than Tim was, but they had that sort of weird, incongruous plot in the last season of Voyager where Seven and Chakotay became an item, right? Didn't fit, in my estimation. You may disagree. For me, it seemed very contrived and weird and didn't really fit with the arc of either of those characters that would sort of play out. I think they were just trying to sort of tie up weird ends or something, or they were just running out of ideas by the end of season 7. But they leave Voyager. The only character we've seen from Voyager, as Tim mentioned earlier, post the end of that series, is Janeway arrives as Admiral Janeway in one little snippet in one of the TNG movies. I wonder where Chakotay is and what happened with their relationship. Was he a Ranger? Like, what happened there? To me, the Rangers also speak to the Maquis, right? Which was where Chakotay came from, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There is one more thing I forgot in my explanation of the show, and that was just before Seven leaves, and she's about to go grab the disruptor, she says to Picard over her shoulder, when you got away from the Borg, were you able to regain your humanity? And he said, yes. And she says, all of it? And he says, no.
And he whispers it to her, too. He says very quietly, no. Again, a beautiful scene between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's an interesting, because I mean, again, like until Rios mentioned that Picard used to be Borg, that's something that I forget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because did that ever manifest itself in? I know it manifested itself in the First Contact, or not First Contact.
His First Contact is where it really comes to a head.
Chasing the Borg.
Yeah,
chasing the Borg.
Yeah.
Oh, because it starts with him and as Locutus.
Yeah, they did. One of the episodes, and again, it was sort of a weird one because it was very obviously non-sci-fi episode, but the episode that follows after the two-part Locutus of Borg, big monster two-parter season finale / season opener, is the one where he's dealing with that, and he's back home at Chateau Picard with his brother, and he is really wrestling with who am I, and do I want to be the person I was before, and can I get back in the uniform and go out in space and stuff like that, and they don't dwell on it a lot after that. Certainly it does come up during Borg related episodes going forward, but yeah, that episode I thought was particularly good. It almost felt a little too soon, like in a way, like they sort of went from like big crossover to like that, and then it's just like back to the adventure of the week. It felt like it'd been nice to have him sort of have a breakdown or something at some point, or something that would have fed that. Well, I mean,
you do have the episode with the Borg Queen coming back, and it's not Alice Craig, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because there was that whole interesting plot scenario with Data and Picard, right? And her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good show.
Yeah, it's picking up steam. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question. So again, I can't remember if I missed Doctor Who this week or I saw it and it just didn't mean that much to me.
I have also not watched Doctor Who this week because I was I was away for work, but I know I saw a lot of spoilers online for what happened. So
I think I watched it. I can't remember. Like, it was so uneventful. Mind you, my PVR's been messed up and it's been missing Doctor Who and stuff like that. Anyway, I think we're down to 2 more episodes, right?
Yeah. I think they're getting into what we had teased previously.
Oh, this is the one with the cyber guy.
The robot man, the Cyberman, right?
Cyber guy, the lone Cyberman that what's his name warned him of. Yeah. Okay. I remember now.
Captain Jack.
Yeah. Did you watch Doctor Who at all, Jaime?
No, I'm a few episodes behind. I was looking to see. So I got about halfway through episode 6, which is Praxeus. I've not seen 7, which is Can You Hear Me? And I definitely have not seen 8, which is The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
Oh, yes. They go back to Mary Shelley, Frankenstein. Yeah, that's the one I remember now.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet.
Typical dumb Doctor Who episode.
Well, apparently till the end, because apparently the end ties into this sort of finale 2-parter thing that they're going to do, right?
Yeah. Alrighty, let's move on to the watch list. What you got?
I think mine is rather well timed. It is a YouTube video by Steve Shives called Why 7 of 9 is actually more than just eye candy. And he covers her character's role in about 30 minutes in Voyager. And if you weren't around to see Voyager or don't remember what happened there, Voyager was in the context of sort of the waning of Trek interest from the general mainstream public, certainly from the highs of TNG. Even DS9 has a quite a significant drop down in terms of mainstream acceptance at the time that it aired. And Voyager sort of continued that, and Voyager had the extra sort of pressure that it was launching the UPN television network on the airwaves. So there's a lot of investment in the idea of, this thing needs to sizzle, this thing needs to put butts in seats watching and seeing commercials and stuff like that. So in the 4th season, well, I guess technically in the end of the 3rd, the 7 and 9 character is introduced, and they chose Jerry Ryan sort of very cynically as like, this is the pair of boobs that will make people interested in watching this show.
Well, because they wrote out the less statuesque actor who was playing Cass to do that, right?
Yeah, the very lithe elf woman they got rid of to get the much more sort of traditionally sexy actress on there. And it's to the discredit of the producers for doing this, and it's enormous credit to the writers for writing a good character despite what they were shoved down their throats, and enormous credit to Jerry Ryan for doing a very good job of portraying this complicated character with a lot of subtlety, given that she's largely supposed to be unemotional and robotic, having been a former Borg, and seeing her sort of blossom out of that and then projecting out to her character that we just saw in this episode is amazing. And I think if you're not familiar with that backstory or have kind of forgotten, I think watching this video during lunchtime or something, and Steve Shives does a pretty good job of covering that.
Cool.
Nice. Cool.
I did think the one line that we didn't talk about is when they were doing that little bit of data download between Rios and Raffi, when Raffi keeps adding to the tally of, that she was, 7 of 9 from the Delta Quadrant, and he just keeps adding it on, and he keeps saying it over again. It's just like, it's like repetitious study homework, right? For the people who are like, oh, that's right, she's from the Delta Quadrant, she's a 7 of 9, she's a Borg, she was attacked as a child and put into the collective. It was really funny the way he kept delivering those lines where he's just like committing it to his memory, saying the lines over again and committing it to his memory. Again, funny performance.
Yeah. I found it a little bit funny. It's sort of meta here that on the interwebs, some folks were like, "Hey, wouldn't the crew of Voyager be like this, celebrity case and everything?" And I'm sure they would be, but that was like 20 years ago. And look at Rios's age. Go find a random 10-year-old like right now. Just search the streets of your neighborhood and find one and tell them, hey, you know who Farrah Fawcett is, right? Like everybody had her poster.
Name people on Gilligan's Island, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, this kid's be like, who the hell is that? I mean, I can Google who she is, but I don't know who she is. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen that image somewhere, right? Like it'll trigger the memory. So they have that public consciousness, but certainly not like, how could, people not know who she is sort of thing. It'll depend.
Yeah. Where it's funny because everybody says the famous Captain Picard, right? Like, or Admiral Picard, everyone knows who he is because he was a massive public figure.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple of things on the watch list this week. The first one is an easy one. So by the time you'll be hearing this, Star Wars Clone Wars will have returned on Disney Plus. It is arriving on Friday, the 21st of February, for its now final season, which we... those of us who are fans of the show, it was, kind of disappointing the way they ended it. It came around the merger or acquisition by Disney of the Lucasfilm properties, and they decided that they wanted to go a different direction. They canceled the show, and it really never did get the proper send-off it deserved. Now, under the guidance of Dave Filoni, who, of course, is, one of the master creators of Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Rebels, and really one of the architects of the modern Star Wars universe, has gone back and is going to tell us, bring us right to the end of the Clone Wars. He's going to tell us, what happens with all these characters that we've come to care about that especially were created for this show, like Ahsoka and Captain Rex. And we did see later on how some of those characters sort of lived their lives further in Rebels. But again, it would be really nice to get a little bit of closure on some of those characters and stories that we left behind. So very excited about that. They are doing this in the very same way that they did it with Mandalorian. It's week to week. They're not doing a download dump a la Netflix, so it will be doled out one at a time. So you do have some time if you want to take the time to catch up or watch some key episodes. There's a lot of good articles online that I've seen this last week saying, here's 10 key episodes to watch to sort of get yourself ready for watching season 7. Like most TV shows, you don't have to watch every single episode to get the overarching things that'll get you to where you need to go. So it's great to see the show back, and I'm excited to get back into that world.
Can you give us a link for that one that's the top 10 to watch?
Yeah, I'll find one. We'll put it in our show notes, folks.
It'll save me having to go sit through all the episodes I haven't watched yet.
It's not for you, folks. It's for Tim. The other thing that I wanted to flag was we got a new trailer today for Westworld Season 3. We'd already had a couple of looks at this so far. They were a little more abstract, a little less sort of about the characters, and a little more just sort of, giving you a sense of the world that they're in, a look at the faces and stuff like that. This is the first one where we sort of get a sense of what's happening, where we're at. For those who watched the show, obviously, it does have the sort of progression of these both human and robotic characters. And it's interesting in a parallel as we're now watching this thing about artificial people in Star Trek. Obviously, the artificial people in Westworld and their evolution is a very interesting storyline as well. In this one, we really get a sense of what's life outside of Westworld and what's the world like, and how would those artificial people exist in that world. It looks very Blade Runner-y. It has a real sort of future imperfect kind of vibe to it. It's a little Matrixy, it's a little Blade Runner-y, but it certainly is also within the aesthetic that's been created a little bit around Westworld for the first 2 seasons. It looks slick, and so we know now that it's going to be debuting on March 15th, which is not too far off. And they do deliver the line in the show. They mentioned the end and the end. It's a couple times. I hadn't heard that this was going to be a final season, and I don't know that that's been confirmed. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that either, but I wonder if they're just sort of setting this up for a climactic battle. It has a sort of tone of climax to it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything specific, but it would make sense to me, like you said, given the tone. And I'm definitely a fan of ending things before they wear out their welcome, sort of thing, and have a nice tight story arc from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. So it'd be a bummer on the one hand because I do enjoy the show, but on the other hand, I'd rather see it go out in its prime, so to speak.
Yeah. And for you, Jaime, my friend from the Pacific Northwest, one of the people that seems to be in the trailer, and I've looked it up because it was one of those, I think you blink and you miss it. Marshawn Lynch is in that trailer.
Oh, really? I didn't have a chance to see the trailer. Really, Marshawn?
Yeah.
Wow.
Go back and have a look. I was like, what? And then I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a Seahawks message board where people are like, "Hey, did everybody else see?" And sure enough, Marshawn Lynch seems to have a role in the next season of Westworld. So
for those of us transporting it home,
Marshawn Lynch is a all-star caliber football player who played for the Seattle Seahawks for a long time. And actually, he was back this year, was he not? He played in the playoffs.
That's right. So much beloved Seahawks player. Didn't start with the Hawks. I guess he might have ended with the Hawks, depending on if he stays retired or not this coming up season. But definitely a big part of their win in the Super Bowl. And much beloved because of just how sort of eccentric he is, his physical abilities as a player, and his the way he sort of deals with the media and his need for privacy is very interesting. So people love that about him.
Yeah, legendary.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it for another week. Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they look?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
And Jonathan, people want to get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews.
Alrighty. My name is Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA. On the Twitter machine is where you'll find me. Till next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
3 to beam up.
There's never a pattern enhancer when you need one.
Nope.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. This is CNN. What's that? Oh, I just thought the James Earl Jones thing was kind of cool. Oh, wrong show. Right. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter @Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys watch Good Place, the finale of The Good Place? Are you guys caught up on that?
The finale of The Good Place. I believe I did.
2 weeks ago was the
yes,
final
I did.
episode.
That was the one where Chidi and her are looking at the beach and whatever.
Yeah, they basically have the option of going and becoming one with the universe as opposed to staying in the real, true good place.
Right.
Sorry, Jaime, I'm spoiling it. I hope I'm not spoiling it for you.
No worries. I've only seen like an episode or two of that, but it's one I think that's on the list to go binge now that it is possible to do. It's
a pretty tight. It's a typical television sitcom timing wise. It's 21 or 22 minutes per episode. So if you have the wherewithal, you can get through it in like 5 days. Like, it's not a lot, but it's really worthwhile. It's rarely do you find a show where there is such a clear sense of how much everybody involved loves it. Like, it's just dripping with passion and enjoyment for everybody doing their parts. And no show has a perfect ending. There is almost no example of a perfect finale to a show. This one included. It's not perfect, but it's certainly, I think, a fitting send-off. And it fits right in with exactly what Jaime was just saying about Westworld, right? Sometimes it's really nice if they can go out on their own terms, not overstay their welcome, and just call it quits. And I think in the decision to make only 4 seasons and whatever works out to, I think, 53 episodes, I think they kind of did it. But yeah, I think you're right, Jaime. I think right now the first 3 seasons are on Netflix, and I think once that 4th season goes, I think there's a large number of people who are going to fall down that rabbit hole because it's just all right there in front of you. But it was fun. For 4 years, I was a day oneer on the television. They had me at Kristen Bell and Ted Danson and Mike Schur. Of course, Mike Schur is the creator of the show. He was the co-creator of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was the creator of Parks and Rec. He's a huge track record of making really entertaining and interesting television shows. So I was in from the beginning, but But it is going to be a great show for people to watch for a long time. I think it's pretty poignant and beyond poignant. It's just damn funny.
I think that show and Better Call Saul are examples of shows that if I want to watch everything right now, I have to split across 2 different kinds of services. So, like you mentioned, The Good Place has 3 seasons on Netflix. The 4th should be available to me on demand from YouTube TV for the season that just finished. And then Better Call Saul has just added up through season 4, and season 5 is ongoing right now, I think.
Yeah, so, I think it started last week or this week, maybe. Talk about great television. I have not watched this week's episode yet. I love that show. Man, is that ever good television. I didn't know how they were going to be able to compete with Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad is amazing television. But Better Call Saul it's on par. Like it's strange to say it because Breaking Bad is on such a high pedestal, but boy, it's a good show. It's a really good show. Like it's just this perfect little balance of seedy and gross, but captivating. The performances, the actors, the atmosphere. It is just so rich. You could just drown in it. It's just such an amazing work of television.
Other stuff I'm watching. I am almost done with C and almost done with Servants on Apple TV Plus.
How are you liking them?
Liking C, loving Servant. Just especially Ron Weasley. I can't remember. Rupert Grint, I think is his real name.
Ron Weasley, yeah.
Ron Weasley. Ron Weasley is my favorite character from Servants.
Really? How far into it are you?
I think I have like an episode or 2 left into Servant.
Right.
Yeah. Did you already watch that, Tim?
Yes, I watched it already, yeah.
How'd you like it?
It was good. Not very... Well, I mean, it was a bit M. Night Shyamalan-ish, but, but it was good.
I just, in the spirit of having now had Arrow end in the DC CW shows, I spent the last few weeks powering through and catching up on all the episodes of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which I really did enjoy. But last season, I had too many different things on the go, and I just sort of let it fall by the wayside. So I caught up on about 10 episodes in a row, and it is again, it's ridiculous. It's such a stupid show, but it's so much fun. It is just this nonsensical romp through time and space. It's like Doctor Who, but with like buffoons doing it. It's not high art, but it's funny, and it's certainly entertaining each week. The nonsense they get up to in that, again, if you're a fan of the DC universe, it's fun. And all that was available on Crave and then on Rogers On Demand in Canada. So, like what you were saying, Jaime, I had to go to 2 different sources to catch up on all these different bits and pieces, but it was nice to be able to catch up for not having to pay for it beyond my usual bills.
Yeah, and so I watch Supergirl and Batwoman, and post the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, those 2 shows have done a pretty good job of dealing with the ramifications and the fallout from that. I'm aware of Arrow, of Legends of Tomorrow, and Flash dealt with the implications.
Yeah, Arrow only had, I think, a couple episodes after, because obviously, spoilers, they wrap up that series for a particular reason based on the events of Crisis. Flash and Legends definitely both have a lot of fallout out of that, particularly some of the... I don't think it's a spoiler at this point. The idea is that it goes from being all these different worlds where these different heroes live on variations of Earth to now there is one Earth. They call it Earth Prime, right? So all of the heroes, including Black Lightning, who was excluded from that as well, has now joined the same universe. And Flash had a couple of really good, looks at how different characters were impacted and the decisions that they made, and the fact that because Flash was very much tied into the idea of the multiverse, they did a lot of character crossover. The Harrison Wells character that they had was the actor changes characters pretty much every season to be a different version of this character from the different universes. So the idea is that like all of those versions of that character are now dead, and the last one that's alive is actually partially responsible for what happened. And so there's all kinds of really good storylines to go down. And Supergirl, I think, is the one that I thought was really well done. I mean, you said you watched that as well. I thought that they put some neat twists on the status quo in that one too, because Lex Luthor, who was a real key player in that Crisis story, took the time to rewrite a little bit of history as the world was coming together too. So interesting ramifications in that world too. I'm enjoying all of those series right now. And Batwoman again, like a really interesting twist with her arch nemesis and how that all played out coming out of the Crisis too. So it's nice, a little sort of mid-season shake-up where you know the players, the characters, but the status quo has sort of been disrupted is interesting. And of course, this is all building towards the end of the season for all these things, and then we're going to get a Superman and Lois show in the fall too. So one of the other things that happened on Flash this week is we got another look at Diggle, who was one of the main characters on Arrow, turned up on Flash, and is apparently going to be a recurring character on the Superman show. And there's a very clear indication that he is going to evolve into a very well-known DC superhero character on that show.
Oh, okay. I think I know who you're talking about now. So he's going to be on that show? He's not going to get his own show for that character?
No, I think he's going to be a supporting character on because he showed up on Flash last week, and he said in the wake of what happened in Crisis, he and his family are moving to Metropolis.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, you watch the Crisis. Obviously, the Crisis crossover. There's a very strong hint that he is going to pick up the mantle of a very famous, well-known superhero from the DC universe. So, spoilers! It's Green Lantern.
It'll take a lot of willpower to not spoil this one.
I was going to say, you and I could dance around it all night. Be a lot of fun. Yeah. No, I think it'll be interesting to see how they sort of keep these things rolling too, because obviously Arrow was sort of the strong spine of that all this stuff had been built off of. So it'll be interesting to see how this universe that they've built exists without it. Have you watched Black Lightning?
I saw about half of the first season, and then it just wasn't gripping me given other stuff I was watching. But I might have to give it a chance and go back and catch up.
Yeah, I was the same way, and I like the character. I certainly read a bunch of those books over the years. I watched this exact same way. I watched about 5 episodes, maybe 6 episodes of the first season, and was like, I'm going to come back to this. Like, I don't have enough time now, but I'll come back. And now they're into season 3, and I'm like, damn, I have to catch up on that show. But I did like the lead actor and even some of the supporting characters. I thought were pretty strong. Even just that little snippet I had, I think it's probably one worth going back to at some point, especially now. When they do another crossover, it sounds like he's going to be part of the Super Friends, so it'll be good to catch up a little bit. Him go for a nap?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are.
Never a good sign. What's going on, Tim?
No, I'm just trying to deal with this Ticketmaster nonsense.
Rage Against the Machine and their ridiculous prices for their new tour. That bothered me.
What do you mean?
They put their tickets on sale for the new. They're reunited and they're going out on tour.
Yeah.
So here in the GTA, they're playing Hamilton and they're playing 2 shows in Toronto. But whether you're on the floors or you're in the last row of the upper deck, the cost is the same. There's no variation on ticket cost. So tickets to be down on the floors, which is all wide open at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, where the Raptors and the Leafs play, is $190 Canadian plus whatever. If you want to sit anywhere on the lower bowl, it's $190 a ticket. If you want to sit off angle, it's $190 a ticket. If you want to sit in the upper deck, $190 a ticket. So people were complaining there's no graduated system. It's not like there's like lower price points if you are a big fan, but you can't necessarily afford premium ticket prices. There's no other entry point. So either you pay what it costs and you go, but then you know that if you're in the upper deck, you're paying the same amount as the people who are down the floors. So then it builds a lot of frustration that, you're sitting in a less advantageous spot, even though you paid the same amount. So, and as my understanding, they did that across the board. Jaime, I think that's the case across the board.
Yeah. I wasn't interested enough to go, but I did hear people talking about the prices, and I just knew the prices were really high. I didn't realize the nuance of how they were high.
Yeah, they did have special spots that were sort of set aside and reserved. I believe they're related to a charity. So they are selling sort of prime spots throughout different venues. And you can pay, I think it's something very expensive, $500 or something, and get, better spots with the remainder of the cost of that ticket going to a charity cause, which is, again, it's noble in its way, but I don't think that really helps for people who, I think one of the appeals of going to a show is, if you are a large fan of something and you want to, pay the premium, you can obviously get closer to the stage and have a different experience. But if you are a casual fan, you might want to sit in the upper deck just to be there to enjoy a night of music. Or, you may not have the means, but you're a big fan. You may be able to afford, a lower cost ticket if you aren't necessarily down front. So it's a strange pricing policy from a socialist collective to do that. I think if you're going to make one price, shouldn't that price be low?
Yeah, that would certainly be an easier sell. It'd be like, man, the dude who's up front in the first row is paying $20. Yeah, but your ticket's also $20. You got in there a little earlier, it worked. But instead, just accept the fact that it's cheap.
Yeah, and I don't know how it worked in every other market. I did look at tickets in a couple of the different areas around here, and there was no pre-sales. There was no, you have a special credit card so you can get in sooner. There was no, you're a member of the fan club, or all of it just seemed to drop like whole cloth in one fell swoop.
That's for Rage?
Yeah. Yeah, it was basically like this time, this day, anyone who wants to go, these are the venues, these are the prices, go. Which is a bit of a strange method of, again, it seems a little unusual. You guys ever watch Fringe?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Did you enjoy Fringe?
I did until like the third season or whatever, the final season.
Oh, it went 5 seasons.
Hokey.
5 seasons, dude.
Well, yeah, okay, 5 seasons. And it was interesting. The first like 2-3 seasons was really good, and then when they tried to sew up the to give it some when it had mystery to it, it was really cool. But as they started to sort of get closer to the end, and they had to sort of make it make sense, it kind of got weird.
Yeah. That's one of those ones I see it pop up on my you might like list all the time, and I think I don't know if I would I?
I'm going to sell my ticket to the beaches on Sunday.
Yeah, you're not going to go?
Sorry?
You said you...
Yeah, I don't want to go.
You don't want to go?
Well, I mean, you guys are going on Saturday, right?
We are going Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, I got a Sunday ticket, so... I
was in Ottawa the last few days, and actually last night I was downtown, and I realized they were playing downtown last night. I was thinking, well, maybe I could see them twice in a week, and I thought...
Did you go?
No, I didn't. In the end, I was like, you know what, that's probably not a wise investment of money. I should probably just be happy with the tickets I got to go see them in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm just trying to log into these different sites to try and sell them, and I'm just back. I've gone back to Ticketmaster. I've given up. I'm just going to sell it through Ticketmaster. But it's sold out, right? So I'm sure it'll sell, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're popular, especially as hometown, right? So
yeah. The question is, how much do I want to sell it for?
I don't know. They were sold out from what I saw in Ottawa. I looked at one point to see. I was like, I wonder if there's any tickets, and there was tickets that were like $40. I was like, oh, maybe. And then I looked back later in the night, and there was one ticket left, and it was $160. I was like, well,
for what? For
the beaches in Ottawa.
Oh yeah.
I was like, no.
So if I paid $42, if I sell it for $59, I get $50 back.
Seems fair.
Yeah, but then if I want to buy a ticket for Saturday night, I'm going to pay more, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Again, you can always put it up on the board. You can't sell tickets online, but you can put them up on Facebook Marketplace and stuff too. That doesn't have rules. Kijiji has rules against tickets now, but Facebook Marketplace doesn't seem to. You can put it up on Marketplace and say willing to trade for nights, because there's always people who have things come up and
really?
Stuff too. Yep.
Did I tell you I got a ticket for Roger Waters?
Oh, did you?
I did. And then there's another band called Brit Floyd. No, the Australian Pink Floyd band.
Oh, okay.
I've seen Brit Floyd before, but the Australian one's supposed to be really good. I got tickets for them too. They're playing at Danforth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like concerts have just been fast and furious this last week. And it's funny, there's a bunch of nostalgia bands. I saw that it's a double bill coming to Amphitheater who was it? It was Korn.
Yeah, I saw that one the other day.
And I can't remember who it was that's coming with them. It was another sort of very 90s that type of band. And then Primus is coming at some point too. I was like, if you wait long enough, if people are alive, it feels like they're going to reunite. Like the money for touring is just so much more than the money.
Korn was broken up or what?
I don't think they were I hate you broken up. I think they were just
Don't you hate this, Jaime? Every show you're on, they end up talking about music.
No, it's fine. See, these are not ones I'm like, well, let me think, who is this particular band? I was like, dude,
Mark
I know
and I talk about
Korn.
60s and 70s bands right now.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Pulling up these 90s bands, early 2000s, like that's, and, back to 80s, that's my jam.
Well, yeah, I think you and Jonathan are closer to age than you and Mark, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think you it's Korn and Faith No More. That's
No More. I was going to say Faith No More, but
yeah, Korn and Faith No More. Yeah, it's and I've heard this on a number of different pods and stuff that I listen to, but the money from streaming and the money from obviously radio play and from album sales has just gone so far precipitously downward that for a lot of these artists who were used to getting checks in the mail, touring is where they make. I think this is the figure that I heard last was 80%, sure. Right? You make 80% of the money you're ever going to make by hitting the road. You sell T-shirts, you sell albums on the road, you sell tickets and premium experiences where you get to meet and greet and all that kind of stuff. If you want to meet the guys from Korn, I'm sure they'll happily shake your hand for an extra few $100. All right, we're going to call it a night, guys.
Yeah.
Here.
Talk to you later.
We make a team effort on watching Dog.
Ya llegó nuestro mejor Black Friday y tenemos miles de ofertas toda la semana, como hasta 75% de descuento en joyería fina después del 40% de descuento extra. Y da un paso adelante con botas para ella a solo $19.99. Además, encuentra toallas Home Expressions a solo $2.99 cada una. JCPenney, celebraciones que valen la pena. Ofertas válidas hasta el 26 de noviembre en la tienda en selección de estilos. Aplican exclusiones. Ofertas de Black Friday se excluyen de los cupones. Detalles en la tienda con un asociado.